Hi, first grade. Great job. Learning those five ers. We're gonna keep working on them for until we have them memorized. So don't get too concerned if you don't know them yet. All right, but you did a great job. Let's see. There's a sentence that we use to help us remember which ers we use the most often. All right, and I'll say it, and then I want you to say it with me. That sentence is her hurt bird eats worms early. Can you say that with me? Her hurt bird eats worms early. Great. That sentence helps us remember which of our ers we use more often and which ones we use less often. So the order of the words in that sentence, the first word, which is her, is the that we use most often, right? And then the next word, we use the next most often, so not as much. And then the third word, we use less than that. And so the that we use the most is the of her. Next is the of hurt. Then it's the of bird. Then it's the of worms. And the one we use the least often is the of early. So that will help you in case you want to spell a word that you know that you hear has the sound in it, but you're not sure what to use because there's not a teacher there to tell you, or your parent isn't there to tell you which to use. So if that were the case, then if I were making my best guess about that word, which do you think I would use in that word? If you said the of her, you are exactly right, because that is what we use most often to make the sound in English words. So let's say that sentence one more time. Her hurt bird eats worms early. Great. All right, we're going to practice our ers now. So the first one I want you to write is the of her. What are you going to write? Good. The of her. So write that and say it while you write it. The of her. All right, so this is what it should look like. And I hope you remembered to underline to show those two letters go together to make that sound. So if you didn't have this for the of her, go ahead and cross out whatever you had and then write this in. Remember, we always want to say the sounds while we write it because that forms connections in our brain to help us remember it more easily. All right, our next is the of hurt. Class, what are you going to write? Good, the of hurt. So remember to leave a clock space. All right, if that's just like when we learned our if you're having a hard time with leaving a clock space, you can always just write in a little clock stroke. So go over a space just below the dotted line, touch 2 on the clock, and then do your clock stroke. And you can do that until you feel comfortable leaving a clock space by yourself. But we don't want to use our finger just because that takes too long. All right, so our the of hurt is this one, the of hurt. Right, so make sure yours looks like mine. If it doesn't, cross it out and make it look like mine. Remember, say it while you write it. All right, we're going in order from our sentence. So our next is the of bird. What are you going to write? Great job, write it and say it while you write it. The of bird. the of bird. All right, here's our the of bird. So if you didn't have that, go ahead and correct it and say it while you write it. So these are our ers that have 2 letters. Next we're going to move on to our 3-letter ers. All right, so the first one is the of worms. What are you going to write? Great, the of worms. Write it and say it while you write it. The of worms. All right, so I'm going to show you my phonogram before I underline it. All right, so make sure those are the 3 letters that you have in that order. Am I going to underline all 3 letters? If you said no, then you remembered from last time and nice work. Because remember, this is just a bossy what. It still says its sound, so it's not part of our right? Because we don't hear the sound what in but it makes these 2 letters say as without this, these letters say something different. So we just underline the 2 letters that actually make the sound, and that's those guys. All right, so make sure your the of worms looks like mine. All right, and our last is the of early. What are you going to write? Good, the of early. Say it while you write it. The of early. Right, make sure you're underlining. And all right. Great job with that, class. Now we're going to practice using our the of her to write some words. Right. So get ready to write. Make sure you're sitting up nice and straight and tall. Let's see. The first word that we're going to write is the word, well, let's start with writing her. All right. So what sounds do we hear in the word her? Good, it's And of course we're going to use which say it with me? The of her. Great job, write it and say it while you write it. All right, so class, tell me what I need to write to spell the word her. Good. Good, and which is it? Say it with me, the of her. All right, I know we did this one already, but I thought we'd just review it again. All right, so make sure yours looks like mine. Do I need to underline this, class? How about this? Excellent. I need to underline my the of her to show that those letters go together to make that sound. All right, now let's read our word. Her. All right. Our next word we're going to write is the word heard. All right, but that is a word, I think we've talked about this, and so sometimes words sound the same in English, but they're spelled differently. And so that's why sometimes we need to use it in a sentence, or I'll always use it in a sentence so that you know. All right, this kind of herd means a big group of animals. So I would say, I saw a huge herd of geese at the park, that kind of herd. All right, what sounds do we hear in that? Heard? Good, it's d, and we're going to use the of her. So one more time, what are we going to write to spell the word heard? Great job. The of her, and d. So write those sounds and say them while you write them. All right, so now tell me what I need to write to spell the word heard. Good. Which is it? Good. The of heard. The of her. And what's our last sound? Good. D, which remember is a clock stroke letter. So I probably should have said that before we wrote it. All right, so make sure your heard looks like mine. All right, let's mark it. Does this need a marking? How about this? Good, we're gonna underline our the of her to show that those two letters go together to make that sound. And how about this? All right, let's say our sounds and put them together. Very good job, class. It's d, heard. And remember, this kind means a big group of animals. All right, the next word. Our next word is jerk. What's the word? Good, jerk. So to jerk something can mean to pull on it really hard. So we could say, I will jerk the rope when we play tug of war. Jerk. What sounds do we hear in the word jerk? Good, our sounds are j, k. All right, we're using the of her because that's what we're practicing right now. But wait, we're going to use line letter k. Class, which k are we going to use? Good, line letter k. All right, so write those sounds in jerk and say them while you write them. All right, class, what do I need to write to spell jerk? Good, j, which Good, the of her. And what's the last sound? Good, k. But which k did we use? Very good, line letter k. All right, so make sure yours looks like mine. And let's mark it. Does this need a marking? How about this? Excellent, we need to underline it. And how about this? No. All right, so let's say our sounds and put them together, class. J, k, jerk. All right, nice job, class. We'll do one more word practicing our the of her. And that word is stern. Ooh, this is kind of a long word. Class, what's our word? Good, stern. All right, so to be stern means to be pretty serious. All right, so stern, serious, also maybe a little bit strict, right? So we could say, I will be stern if you do not say your sounds while you write them. Or now let's do a better sentence. The librarian had a stern look on her face. Stern. All right, what sounds do we hear in the word stern? Good, this one's longer. It's s, t, and the that we've been practicing this session is the one we're going to use, the of her. All right, so one more time, tell me the sounds and then write them. Good, an the of her. All right, write them and say them while you write them. All right, class, what do I need to write to spell stern? Good. Good. Which Good. The of her. And what's the last sound? Good. N. Actually, English is so funny. There's words we use in different ways. I just realized the stern is also a part of a boat. Right. They're both spelled the same way. So this is what it should look like. Let's say our sound, or let's mark it. Good, we need to underline it. And how about this? No. All right, so we'll just underline our the of her. And then let's say our sounds and put them together. Very good job, class. The last thing I realized I should tell you is that when we have phonograms that are more than one letter, they have either a vowel sound or a consonant sound, right? We consider that group of letters to be either a vowel or a consonant. And I just realized I wanted to point out to you that our ers all make what we would call vowel sounds, or we treat them like a vowel, because remember, every English syllable must have a vowel. We can't have a vowel without, and we can't have a syllable without a vowel. And so our all of our ers we consider them to be groups that make a vowel sound. All right, great work, and I'll see you later.